There is no one righteous, not even one. There is no one who understands, no one who seeks God. All have turned away, they have together become worthless. There is no one who does good, not even one. I remember growing up as a child, just growing up in a very Christian home. My mom was a Sunday school teacher, and my dad was, a pretty, well-respected elder in the church. And I think growing up in that environment, it made me very, 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 very prideful because, I was always at church. I was always serving. I started to lead worship for my youth group in the 8th grade. At a very young age, and I remember even that my pastor would call me like his superstar pupil, and then I remember one of my other friends he would call me like Holy Tim. He would always reference things like that. So I think growing up, I think I made ministry, I think I made Christianity, I think I made knowing Jesus into this self-seeking, self-glorifying, and self-satisfying journey where I was really just using Jesus to give me worth, to give me security, to give me approval, because it made me seem like that I was good. It made me seem like I was obedient, that I was very sacrificial. And I guess relating it to the theme, He covers me. I used youth group, I used ministry, small things, setting up chairs, leading praise, reading the Bible, knowing, listening to Christian music all the time. I think I use these things to really present myself as this, good kid, as this, perfect, pupil. I think I used those things to really make myself more presentable before others, and especially those in the church. And I never grew up, as a popular kid. So instead of finding my worth, in my friends or things like that, I found my worth in just my goodness, and how obedient I was, how good I was, how much I sacrificed, how much I obeyed. And I think it really just started to fester and grow inside of me, this feeling of pride, of because it's hard to tell, because I'm doing good things. I was serving in ministry, I was leading praise, and it's hard to see that. It's hard to see that as a bad thing. But I think God, thankfully and graciously, He opened my eyes just to see how much, or to see just really how sinful that I really was on the inside. That I didn't need to put on this show and use those things to put on a show for others. I remember reading through this book called Worship Matters by Bob Kauflin, and he was a worship leader, and he talked about how he felt hopeless sometimes, and so he sought some counsel from one of his friends, and the friend said something that really hit me, and it was very profound, and it was, Bob, you're not hopeless enough. And while it seems like it puts you down, because it shows you that you really don't know how sinful you are. But it's funny because it was one of the most reassuring and I guess helpful statements that I had ever heard. Just really knowing that, even though I really am more sinful than I could ever imagine, that I'm more loved and accepted and approved and more worthy than I could ever dream because of what Jesus did for me on the cross, because Jesus became unworthy, because Jesus lost his identity, because Jesus gave up his approval, he gave up his kingdom, he gave up his throne, he gave up his life so that I could have life, so that I could be worthy, so that I could have approval. And it was the most reassuring, most secure thing that I could ever even dream of. I remember in another book, The Discipline of Grace by Jerry Bridges. Another kind of one-liner that really stuck with me was that he wrote, "Your best days are never so good that you are beyond the need of God's grace, and your bad days are never so bad that you are beyond the reach of His grace." I remember having to, when you're living a life where you find, your worth, your acceptance, and your love in good works, in being good, it's very, very challenging because once you fail, then it really breaks you and it really crushes you because it means that you are not worthy. It means that you are not lovable and that you are not acceptable. And just hearing that, even in my best days where I wake up and I do my QT, where I, read the Bible and, I have a good day, spiritually or, even just in relationships with others and things like that, that those things will not save me. And at the same time, knowing that in my worst days, where, I just completely fail and struggle in so many different ways, knowing that, Jesus covers all those things and that He still loves me and that I'm still acceptable and worthy, is, it's amazing. I think knowing that God looks at my record, God looks at me and He sees someone who is perfect, someone who is worthy, approved, acceptable, lovable. Instead of seeing all the filthy rags, all the different things that I try to cover myself that really are like filthy rags. I'm covering myself with all these rags and trying to present myself before God and, saying, "God, here I am," and I must look ridiculous, because I'm like covered with like these, ugly rags. And, instead of that, God takes He takes all my ugly rags, one by one. I think He's always exposing me, and slowly I can start to take off these rags and really start to expose myself more, and at the same time know that, that the robe of righteousness, the perfect and the clean, the robe that Jesus covers me with, God sees me with that, and Jesus says, "Look at Tim, he is perfect now, he is righteous now, he is stainless, he is sinless." it's amazing. And I still struggle a lot with my sins, but knowing that I'm fully assured in Christ is beautiful. It really is. My name is Timothy Shin, and the perfect record of Jesus covers my stained, imperfect record. He covers me.